What is going on, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another episode of the Kingdom Says. I am your host, as always, Garrett Williams. Tonight, I've only got two of the three familiar faces that you usually see on this program. Unfortunately, no Kyle tonight, but we've got a couple other friendly faces. We've got Mr. Thomas Pike, Mr. Arrowhead Tom at the top right of the screen. How you doing tonight, Tom?
Man, I am doing well. It's a pretty solid Wednesday night that we're recording here on, and the season is ticking away, and yeah, we're going through it. This is a big part of the stretch for the Chiefs season, and lots of outcomes to be determined. So yeah, big week for us. Excited to talk about it.
Very big week. Also joining us for this big week, Mr. Randy Ellenberger. How you doing tonight, Randy?
Doing awesome, man. Doing awesome. It's always a pleasure to jump on and chat some ball with y'all. So, like Tom said, we are coming into a pretty hefty stretch of the schedule here with some big games coming up, and it doesn't get a whole lot bigger than the next one. Coming off a bye with the weird to say division leader Broncos.
Yeah, it's definitely peculiar.
That doesn't roll off the tongue well. Like, it just sounds strange to say. Like, that was painful coming out. But it's Donkey Week, so let's go kick them.
Yeah, one of the Chiefs' biggest rivals for forever. I mean, they're just all the Chiefs and Broncos have had a really long rivalry, obviously being dominated of recent by the Chiefs. I believe, unfortunately, Patrick Mahomes lost his first game to the Broncos. I think of his career last year, but other than that, I think he's completely defeated them. And throughout the whole Andy Reid era, that's kind of been the theme of the Broncos. Obviously, this year it's a little bit different, different. Standings that Randy mentioned that we're not really used to. Broncos being in first place, the AFC West at this point, with what are they, 8-2 now? 8-2?
8-2. 8-2.
Yeah, something like that. They've only lost 2 games. Kind of an interesting season for them. They've had a very, very easy schedule, you could say. A lot of really easy opponents. A lot of kind of weird happenings for them to win a lot of their games. What doesn't get talked about a lot is when you finish at the bottom of your division every year. The next year's schedule, you end up playing other division bottoms, you could say. So you end up getting a lot of teams like the Titans and the Giants and just all these kind of weird, not very good teams. So not really the biggest of tests that the Broncos have had to face, although their defense is one of the best in the league, especially that defensive line of theirs. They've had a really good defensive line and just defense in general for the past couple of years. Obviously headlined by guys like Nick Bonito and the Cooper fellow. I forget what his name is. I don't know. Well, they have another good one over there. We'll talk about it.
We've got a couple.
They got another guy over there, or 2 or 3. They also have Pat Surtain over there, who I'm not sure how healthy he is, but that'll be something to look into. But overall, just a very important game for the Chiefs coming into this one, being 5-4 at the current moment, and it's just an interesting spot for the Chiefs to be in. Really a must-win game for them this week, with the division standings and everything like that. Really kind of the last hope of maybe even sniffing the AFC West championship once again. Having to take down the Broncos a couple times would definitely help winning that division. So it'd be tough. It's definitely tough, and we're entering a really tough stretch of the Chiefs' schedule right now. And coming off a bye week, we know how Andy Reid typically goes with bye weeks, and so it's just a really, really important matchup, and we're going to break it down. What are you guys' initial thoughts on, I guess, just the impact that this game might have for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, this is not a must-win game in the sense that they can't make the playoffs, but if you want a shot at winning the division, which is always the first step, the Chiefs identify as their main goal. Andy takes these conference games very seriously, and overall his record and the division games has been pretty stellar. But the Broncos have had a good season. They've won some close games. They've come away with some weird moments. It's a very interesting matchup. It's just like any other, just like kind of we talked about when we played the Bills. Like it's hard to predict because these teams know each other so well. The defensive line, they get after it. They play some really good, um, really good coverages. And obviously, as we talk about the um, the long term implications. We want to see the Chiefs win the division, make the playoffs, but also if you don't win the division, don't make the playoffs, like which would be a shock, for I think a lot of us, but also it affects draft position and that type of thing too, So I I think the Chiefs have been it's been a quiet bye week. Josh Simmons came back, and the sense I get is that they're all about business right now, and I think they want to and need to come in and handle business and get out of there with a win. But again, it's hard to predict with being a divisional opponent. They're going to play. They're going to play hard. The Chiefs can't play down to their level, and you got to play a pretty clean game. That's the one thing the Broncos do have, generally speaking. Their offense has been a little shaky at times, but Bo Nix has got some juice. They've got some guys who I think can be problematic. Marvin Mims and who's the other small guy that they have? Is it Tez Johnson?
Franklin.
Troy Franklin. That's right. He was
Yeah.
an Oregon guy.
Another
Yeah.
small guy.
Those smaller guys, they always just seem to be a little slippery and give us some problems. Yeah, gotta watch out for that. So we'll see. But the Chiefs, it's one of those gotta have it games, and I'm hoping that they are going to come out and do it.
Yeah, Randy. The last time we saw this Broncos team was on Thursday Night Football versus the Raiders, in maybe one of the worst games of all time, potentially. Like, geez Louise, it was really bad to watch with a Raiders team we know is really bad, and then this Broncos team that's very up and down. What's your kind of take on the Broncos this year?
The Broncos are a head scratcher for me this year. I mean, you look at the initial record at 8-2, and you're like, wow, they're pretty solid. You dig, you go and you look at their actual schedule. Week 1 against the Niners, they beat the Cardinals, the Saints, the Titans. They lost to the Colts by 1 point, which is a good game at that point. They lose to the Chargers, then they beat Cincinnati. They beat Philly, they beat the Jets, they beat the Giants, and then the Raiders and Texans here. I'm like, the schedule is soft, just to put it simply. And like you mentioned too, you finish at the bottom of the division, you get to play the other bottom dwellers the following season. So the initial sticker shock of 8-2 wears off real quick once you dig into the schedule a little bit, and especially if you watch the last 2 games against Houston and the Raiders. Like last week's game against the Raiders was dog shit. Like that was bad. That was a bad football game. And the game against the Texans wasn't much better either. So offensively, right now they're struggling. The defense does pose some problems. Tom mentioned, Surtain's a dude. He's a little dinged up. Their defensive line, that's my worry right now. That's my worry with Simmons potentially coming back. We hope he's in that form that he was in before he left for his little family hiatus. But their edges are tough. Allen and Benito off the edge. I mean, they got some dudes that can rush the passer. Like they lead the league in sacks. Like, and we all know, like, to derail the Chiefs' offense, like you need to disrupt Pat and get him running out of the pocket before he needs to, and get in his face and cause those types of problems. So that's my worry of this game. If the O-line can show up and give Pat time, which is something we talk about quite a bit, like I'm not overly concerned. I think our reputation and our history of coming off buys is always going to play in our favor with Andy, but And like we mentioned, in the last episode of the podcast here, it's time to stop screwing around. It's time to take the gloves off. It's no more vanilla. It's no more saving anything. Like, we need to come out swinging every single play for the rest of the season if we're going to take care of the business that we plan to take care of. So, yeah, it's we're not playing nice anymore. We can't play nice. It's time to turn into the bullies of the block again and start throwing some punches. So
Yeah, it's make or break moment for the Chiefs right here. I mean, like we mentioned earlier, like this is definitely, you don't win this game, and it definitely looks really rough just for the rest of the season standings and making the playoffs and having even somewhat decent seeding if you even do make the playoffs. It's a whole thing, and obviously just the mental aspect of we can't lose to the Broncos. Like, we can't let that happen. That's one of those rivalries we can really hang our hat on and say that Pat Mahomes has dominated the Broncos, and that has to continue. Definitely have to step up the performance. And like we've said, the Broncos defense, that's kind of been their main. That's been the reason why they're 8-2. Simply enough. I mean, there's been a lot of these games that they've played. Obviously, the Raiders last week 10-7. Broncos Texans was 18-15. They beat the Jets 13-11. It's like their offense isn't the one that's dangerous. It's the fact that their defense keeps them in games so much, and even the amount of turnovers they're forcing and sacks and just how their defense disrupts these games is allowing these their lackluster offense, you could definitely say, to kind of hang around and. And especially in the fourth quarter, it seems like they finally eventually figure some things out and just kind of go crazy sometimes. So that's just a big thing, like we mentioned, the offensive line performance, that's where it's got to start and end. Josh Simmons coming back is really big, and Andy was not super committal as far as Josh Simmons coming back in and being the starter right away. I think he's going to be the starter. I don't think that's really a huge question, but you had to at least prove that he wasn't just doing absolutely nothing these past couple weeks, and still looks the part and as decent game shape and all that kind of stuff. So for me, that's not really a worry at all. We also talked about the rest of the offensive line getting healthy during this bye week. Trey Smith was a little bit banged up the past couple of weeks with the back thing. We saw Jawan Taylor go down at the end of the last game with a leg injury. Kingsley got a little bit banged up. We've seen a lot of Mike Caliendo in a couple spots this season, which isn't the most ideal. So just getting everyone back healthy and getting that offensive line rolling again is obviously the big key to the Chiefs' offensive success. And
we definitely don't need any Wanya Moore sightings this week.
No, yeah, that's definitely tough when you're starting to dig that deep into the bin. So
what I think if Josh Simmons is back, and I mentioned this previously, like his ability to move is just different than just about any other lineman on this team. He can get out in space in a hurry, and he kind of leads the group in that. Now, I think the other piece of, like, you talk about slowing down that pass rush, getting into those play actions, those running situations. Obviously, Isaiah Pacheco is looking doubtful for this game if they haven't already ruled him out. We've got Kareem, we've got Brashard Smith back there. Gosh, it's it's hard because again, like we talk about the trade deadline and not picking up a running back, and you just kind of look like, I don't know about you guys, but I'm sitting here just wishing that maybe we had a guy like Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame, or even his backup Jadarian Price. Like, both those guys are dudes. I've been pounding the table for Jonah Coleman, Washington. There's a lot of running backs in this upcoming class that I think would be good fits for the Chiefs. I'm already
draft class.
Guy out of North Dakota State, Barika Capino.
Tom, what month is it, brother? What month is it? Come on.
Well, hold on. I asked Randy a question about a running back real quick.
Okay.
I don't have a chance. Tell me about your boy Barika out of North Dakota.
Hey man, he's a North Dakota product, he's a banger, but I'm not sure he's quite the style or the answer of what we're looking for. But hey, I'll take a Bison any day.
If he's going to go within the first 5 or 6 rounds, we're not going to take him. So
yeah, there's he'll be a late round guy.
Yeah, but even later in the draft, Hollywood Smothers from North Carolina State is an all-name guy, but both the backs out of Penn State are looking. Their Penn State season is kind of lost. So yeah, I mean, it just you wish, you kind of sit here and wish what could be with this
I don't know,
offense.
Tom. We talked about this past draft class as being a really running back heavy draft class, and we were really oodling and eyeing over
Yeah,
a lot of different prospects. And then what did Brett Veach do? He said, "Yeah, we'll give you another seventh
nothing.
rounder."
I was
You
like,
know, that's
Well,
it.
hold on, because Brashard Smith has been pretty solid. I
He's
want to
good,
give
but
the
they're
rookies
not.
some credit.
It's just
I
out of this
agree,
whole deep
but
running
hopefully
back
they
class,
can.
and now we're looking at a point where we could probably have used a little bit higher of a draft pick running back.
Yeah,
Bayshaw Tootin is looking pretty good. There's a couple guys around the
hey,
league that are.
sleeper guy to keep your eye on. My Husker boy Emmett Johnson, man. That
I'll
All
put
right,
him
well,
on the
we'll remember
list.
that when we're in
he's
draft season next year. But the current Chiefs, Tom, I mean, how are they going to run the ball differently with Simmons in there, and just
I
an
mean, I just think
overall
that it
health?
gives you, it opens up the edge, plays to you, opens up some of those sweeps, those pin pulls. Um, you know, it's different. And again, that misdirection, even buying some more time on those play action, you get more room and space, which could be to the benefit of somebody like Brashard Smith, who has a little bit more speed to him. And Kareem is a banger. He's going to just go straight in there. But I think if we're talking about getting people out in space, Josh Simmons brings a lot there. So, but yeah, definitely a position that they're thin at and running the ball, and the Chiefs. We want them. I think that's a pivotal piece of keeping this game where we want it to be. Because if the Broncos can just pin back their ears and get after Pat, that's a problem. So we got to get some runs, and even if it's some manufactured stuff with screens and misdirections, we got to get it in there. But and maybe we'll see some more of the Wildcat stuff and some of that trickery with Rashee Rice in the back.
Yeah, that's some good stuff. The Wildcat with Rashee. Yeah,
this is definitely a game I think that we have to have an emphasis on running the football, because that neutralizes Denver's ability to cause chaos in the backfield with their pass rush. And with the new news that their leading tackler Singleton is out. He had testicular cancer and had surgery. So
crazy.
I've been in that boat, so I know what he's going through. So, but they're not real stout in the middle, and now even a little bit less with him out. So I think we really need to make an emphasis on running the football to slow them down, and having Simmons back, I think, is a huge piece to help us with that perimeter run game, like Tom was talking. We haven't seen a whole lot of the jet sweeps with Xavier Worthy, coming around the edge like that, because without Simmons, it's hard to get that edge sealed and get another guy out in space that can move and pick up the extra man out there. So
yeah,
I think it's gonna be big having him back. But yeah, this is definitely a game that emphasis on running football has to happen, and whether that's pounding Kareem, giving Kareem 20 carries to where it's inside the tackles, and getting the wide receivers and Smith to kind of bounce outside every once in a while. But it's got to happen. We can't keep screwing around and not running the football.
Yeah, and it obviously has to start with the play calling. That's the big thing. No matter who the running back is back there, that the biggest factor in the Chiefs' run game always just seems to be how they actually call the plays. We've stressed it all season. Under center stuff. Play actions, like just going back to more traditional running plays. It's funny. The other day on X, I saw someone tweeted out a highlight compilation of Clyde Edwards-Hilaire's first game as a pro. Boy, that was fun. I mean, bro. I mean, it's Clyde. It's but whatever. But like just watching the game plan, the Chiefs were just so committed to running the ball. They were like, yeah, we'll do normal running plays. We'll get 2, 3, 4 yards out of it, and then we'll run it again. And when it was just such a obviously Clyde having a really good performance back as a rookie, but just seeing the focus on that being just a good part of the game plan was really welcoming to see. So they got to get back to that. They've done it in spurts this year. They've shown inklings that they know that that's the solution. They just always seem to kind of get back to their old ways once things kind of start breaking down for them a little bit, and they just kind of go back to the shotgun stuff and the RPOs and all that kind of stuff that just hasn't really been working. And obviously when you're going against a team that's very familiar with you and plays you twice a year and kind of builds their whole roster specifically to beat you because you are the AFC West champs for the past 10 years or whatever it's been, you got to start breaking out. You're going to have to break out some more creative stuff than the same old package that everybody's very used to, with the play calling. So that's obviously where it starts and ends in my book, is how creative they end up getting, and just kind of what looks they end up employing. That kind of, like you said, adding, especially versus a really good pass rush like they have, like adding the element of the run game just is going to do dividends for both sides, of both the running game and the passing game. It's going to open up so much more for you. And then obviously in the passing game, you gotta figure out who's the good targets. You can't just only throw it to Rasheed now. You gotta mix it up a little bit. Get Tyquan Thornton back integrated a little bit into that. Get Xavier Worthy running more normal routes. Don't just have him running stupid routes and stuff like that. Just gotta find a better combination and a better personnel usage for some of your weapons, because we talked about it this whole offseason about how insane the weapon cabinet is for Mahomes this year, and then it seems like they're still kind of playing it a little safe, and maybe playing an offense that's reminiscent of like the D-Rob and Byron Pringle days, where it's like guys really couldn't get separation, and you kind of had to rely on one look, and then that was and then it's just Pat, and then it's just on Pat to kind of figure it out.
Pat running around until somebody gets open.
Until someone runs free, or he just takes it himself, which I could definitely see. Whatever Pat's rushing total is for this game, I would definitely hammer the over.
Yeah, good chance he's going to be over it, especially with, again, probably having some backup linebackers in there to play that spy position.
Yeah.
Again, there's chances to take advantage of some of the communication pieces. Obviously, never want to hear about a player facing what Singleton is facing. Glad that it was caught. Glad that the surgery sounds like, everything has gone well. All rivalries aside, we, wish him well and a good recovery and hopefully getting back to the field. But, there's things that are bigger than football. But yeah, there should be some meat on the bone for the Chiefs offense.
Definitely should be able to scrape some together and put a really impressive performance on the road, obviously in Mile High. So it's a little bit of a atmosphere difference. A lot of the Chiefs' best offensive performances and really best performances in general this year have come at home in Arrowhead. So it seems like we have definitely struggled on the road a little bit with like the Jaguars game and the Chargers game, obviously at the start of the season. But I'm optimistic for the offense to kind of get the ball rolling more. I think the odds are in our favor, especially coming off a bye week. We know how Andy and co usually prepare for that. I think they'll have a good understanding of what that really complex Broncos defense does, and hopefully have some pretty good answers. Hopefully we come out of this game and be like, wow, the offense had a decent game plan for once. It seems like they actually decided to try a little bit harder on that front. So
let's hope so.
Big theme. The Chiefs put out a video said just turn it up a notch, and all the comments were like maybe a couple notches. Maybe
just a couple
notches. Maybe divisional game. Let's really kind of put a stamp on this turnaround, you might say, of the season, the second half of the season that's starting now. So let's hop over to the other side of the ball for the Chiefs. This defense going against Bo Nix and co. It's not the most intimidating stuff, but there's just always seems to be a little bit of trickery. It seems like some weird thing is going to happen, and Bo Nix is going to be able to find something. Usually, like I said earlier, it always seems to happen in the fourth quarter. They have absolutely no production at all, and then the fourth quarter comes, and I think earlier this year they set like an NFL record for the most amount of points scored in the fourth quarter on a comeback victory. I think that was over the Colts, if I'm not mistaken. So really up and down offense from the Broncos, and the way that this defense has been playing. Some weeks they end up showing up and having a pretty good showing. Other weeks it's a little worse. Obviously, last game versus the Buffalo Bills with James Cook really running amok on us. The Broncos, they have old J.K. Dobbins in there, who's a really good running back, actually. He's been having a decent year. They also have R.J. Harvey back there, who've been using a lot, especially in the pass game, which has been a really dynamic add to their offense. So that's a factor to consider. And then obviously the big thing that Chiefs haven't been able to cover is tight ends. Evan Ingram over there is experienced tight end. He's been in the league for a good amount of time. He hasn't had the most production with them this year, but it'll be interesting to see how the defensive approach The defense kind of approaches what the Broncos kind of do on their offensive identity, containing Bo Nix, who's he can be pretty mobile if you need him to be, and their offensive line's pass protection hasn't been the most dominant this year, you could say. So he's been having to run the ball a lot, having to kind of extend plays a lot, and like I said, sometimes usually a little bit of tomfoolery happens because of that, and they end up catching a break or two. So, Tom, what are your thoughts on this Broncos offense and versus the defense?
Yeah, I mean, they've been struggling. They've had a little bit extra time to prepare for this game. They played on Thursday night against the Raiders, and that was a rough outing for them. It's they lead the league in punts right now. They, when they're clicking, it's in some ways it matches up really well with the Chiefs because it's the quick game, it's the RPO, it's the runs inside, all things the Chiefs struggle with. Some of that misdirection stuff. They struggle. The Chiefs struggle to set the edge. Outside of Karlaftis. Karlaftis is good at it, but there's two edges, and you can go the other way. Makes you really wish you had a guy like Keldrick Falk from Auburn or like a David Bailey from Texas Tech. I'm a big Falk guy this year. I don't know. He's a young player. I was watching
Texas Tech guy.
But it's tough. It's tough because I've been concerned about the depth of this defensive line across the board. Chris Jones, Father Time is undefeated. We talk. Everybody wants to point to Kelsey slowing down, but and I'm not hating on Chris. I love Chris. He's done so much for this organization, and man, he's just had to do so much on his own for so long. And I get it. Karlaftis is there, but Karlaftis is he's your good 2A kind of guy. He's not your primary edge guy. I love Karlaftis. I love what he brings. I love his motor, and he's exceeded my expectations for him as a pro so far. That's not hate either, but he's just not that guy. He's not the guy. He's not the guy. He doesn't really win a lot one-on-one. And even then, he's getting chipped a lot. He's getting they're able to help whoever's blocking him because the rest of the defensive line is so ineffective. So for me, it always starts up there. And same thing, from that second level, the linebackers have to be able to react and understand what's happening. And sometimes they struggle. They get messy with that. I think we match up well with them. Again, I'm very excited to see Noel Williams and Cortland Sutton. I think that's going to be a good matchup for the young kid. I really think in the whole thing, we are not talking enough about how good Noel Williams looks.
He has some of the best numbers in the league as far as lockdown percentages. I saw a stat. He was top 3 lockdown corner in the league around Sauce and some guys.
Yeah, for a 4th round pick. A guy who, and he was a late riser in the draft. He was not getting a lot of buzz. There are conversations about him moving to safety, and then you sit there and you turn on that plate because that Cal defense was not, Cal's not a school that everyone was talking about, and Pac-12 was breaking up all that stuff. But you just, he's a baller. So I like the way they match up, but it's going to be about that quick game. I just wish, like I said, I wish a guy like Keldrick Falk or David Bailey. I haven't gotten to Mateo Uiagalelei, his quarterback, or his brother was a quarterback at Maryland for a while. Randy, have you seen Mateo Oregon yet?
Uiagalelei?
No, I haven't watched a ton of him yet. I've been, now that my high school football season is done, I've started to dig in a little bit more to.
It's not quite draft season yet.
My love of the NFL. It's always draft season.
Randy, have you seen Keldrick Falk out of Auburn?
Yeah, I do like Falk.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Sounds like he's gonna be out of the Chiefs range. I hate to break.
Yeah, there's no way that we have a shot.
If you're this much of a fan of him, he's probably not going to be in the Chiefs range.
Probably not. But there's
maybe
unless we lose this game to the Broncos, and then
I do like Overton out of Alabama. I do like Overton, and even Caleb Banks as an inside stuffer, big kid out of Florida. So
Big Banks.
Yeah.
So. What do you think about Big Citrus at
Big Citrus?
Dominic Orange?
I love that.
Elite nickname.
That is great. That's a great
Big
one.
Citrus.
Big Citrus, Dominic Orange.
I like that.
And there's also the Godfather, Dante Corleone, out of Cincinnati. There's some good nicknames in this
Oh,
draft.
and that just see it's guys like that I do like just because of the attitude, the makeup, and the name itself. Like it just brings a different edge to it, and going from draft to our defense, like
Oh, great segue. Thank you, Randy.
that's what I need this week. I need attitude. Like I gotta see some fire. I am tired of watching our defense play flat, no emotion, no piss and vinegar wanting to kick somebody's ass type attitude. Like there just doesn't seem to be any of it. Like ever since week 1 against the Chargers down in Brazil, like our defense has just looked flat. Like no one's causing chaos, no one's laying big hits, no one's making big impact plays. Like they're just flat. So that's what I need to see. Like I need to see someone wake up. Like if Chris Jones wants to get pissed off and start yelling at people on the sidelines, like grab a mirror, do it to yourself, wake yourself up first, lead by example, like true leaders do. Lead by example, get out there, show everyone else what they need to do, and just have some fire in your belly, because there's nothing worse than watching a talented defense go out there and just show no emotion. Like that's not what football is. Football is an emotional game. Like you have to wear that on your sleeve. You have to let it all out. Take pleasure in bringing pain to the guy across from you. Like, that's what it is. Like, So that's what I need to see. Like coming off this bye, if you had a few little nicks and bruises and boo-boos, whatever, shake that shit off. Get it in the training room. Like you've had an extra week now to let that get better. Find yourself, find your inner demon, light that fire, and freaking do something with it. Like I'm tired of watching flat defensive football from the Chiefs this year. I really am.
Yeah,
you say that, and it makes me. Oh, let me. I promise this. I'm going to build on that, and then I'll pass it right back to you, Garrett. It makes me think about a player that's not with the Chiefs anymore. That's there's different leadership styles, personalities, and all that stuff. And I think Chris Jones is very respected in the locker room, but he's always been kind of a silly, kind of funny, lighthearted guy, And I think like you think about Nick Bolton, and he's kind of a very quiet, reserved guy, And you think about even Trent McDuffie, who I love, very intelligent, very like proper, carries himself.
Same with George.
For a long time on this defense, quietly but effectively, was Justin Reed. And even if he messed up and like he would go whop somebody, and that would set the tone. I will say I see a little bit of that in Leo Chenal, but he's not always on the field so much, and I think it's hard to have to build that credibility as a young player if you're not out there, as much as you want to be. But I would love to see some more Leo, because he's one of those guys that he's just always whatever, he's always, there is no stun. He's always set to kill. So,
right. And even if it is like, I was banging the table for the longest time too, like in pass rush situations,
put him out there.
Put Leo's hand in the ground. Yeah. He's done it in the past. We've seen it sprinkled in here and there, but as ineffective as our pass rush has been, like what's to stop us from?
Why not?
From doing it?
Can't be worse than a Menahue and Dana. No,
right?
Can't be even close to worse. Yeah.
Like put the beast's hand in the ground, release death row, and like let's get after somebody.
Yeah, I think the defense finding its identity and really just finding that fire once again, having some guys step up that really need to just they need to step up and just get the guys rolling and get the mindset changed too. We've sometimes seen the Spags defenses have a little bit of a slow start to the year. Just don't really think that would be the case this year with the amount of turnover that we still had, and a lot of guys just kind of coming back and having that hunger of losing the Super Bowl and stuff like that. You really thought you might see a little more fight and drive out of them, but things happen. Things definitely happen, and it's take the bye week to refresh the mind and hopefully come back with a different mentality. And hopefully this is the week that we see the end of the biggest shutdown in the country that everyone's been talking about, of course, which is the shutdown of Sack Nation. That's been everyone's been talking about how this Sack Nation's been shut down, and hopefully it's coming to an end this week. Hopefully that's the case. So
I hope so, because I mean, the Denver offense doesn't scare me, and even with
it shouldn't scare anyone. Yeah.
with losing Dobbins now too, like he's a much better all around back than Harvey is. Harvey's a little bit more explosive, but he's a rookie. I mean, so they're down a key piece. Their wide receiver core does not scare me at all. I mean, Sutton Franklin's kind of a gadgety little kind of speedster, but Mims is primarily a special teams type guy. So if we're going to have a breakout week and to show the NFL that we're back and it's time to stop screwing around, like this is probably a pretty good one to do it.
Yeah, you would definitely think this. And it's also it's a little bit I always kind of think of it where it's like what team needs to win it more. And the Broncos side, they don't necessarily have to win this game. Obviously, it would be huge for them, but they lose. They're still 8-3. They have some excuses of they've had a couple guys injured and whatnot, and still a lot of season left for them. Yada yada yada. For the Chiefs side, I mean, this is like we said, this is make or break. Like this is a have to win game. The mentality coming out should be a lot of fire, a lot of just motivation. There should be a lot of motivation to with the season potentially on the line, the division potentially on the line for sure. Like this is one that you have to show up for. You have to show up for in rival territory in Mile High, which is a very good atmosphere. That's the thing. It's a very still one of the premier stadiums and fan bases in the league. So obviously. Now, Chiefs fans are going to travel. Now, Chiefs fans, they will travel, and there will be a good showing of red in there. But, just really, really need to see a good performance out of them this week, and hopefully they deliver. Hopefully they've come out and they have some good ideas after this bye week on what they need to really prioritize and, just also have some fun out there. That's the big thing. Just have some fun. Have especially on the offensive side, really just need to go out there and play the brand of football that they know how to play. They don't got to do any of this fake stuff. You don't have to pretend someone you're not. Just go out there and put together a good A to B game and get out with a dub on the road. So with that, let's get to some score predictions here, shall we? We all think about that. Should we get to some score predictions and get out of here?
Yeah.
Okay. Very nice. Very nice. Who wants to go first? Anyone? Any takers?
Yeah, I mean, I can start first. I would just like to say, if we had a player like Denzel Boston, a wide receiver out of Washington, or, Mekhi Lemon, your guy at USC, he probably won't be there. There's a couple of receivers. If we had them on this roster today, we'd probably hang 40 on these guys, but we don't. So, I think here's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the Chiefs to capitalize on some turnovers. I think. And just some stalled drives. So I'm hoping this is kind of a one-sided affair, similar to the Raiders game. Probably not as bad, but I'm thinking I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to say 28-10 Chiefs.
Okay.
I just think the Broncos offense has really stalled out, and I think extra time to prepare. Hopefully we're ready for it. And again, if we had Denzel Boston or, Mekhi, Carnell, Ohio State, he's looking really good. Maybe not a perfect fit, but one of those guys, probably 40 points, but and we'll see.
We'll see. Just for reference, also, the over/under for the game per DraftKings is 43.5. The Chiefs are 3.5-point favorites on the road. So Tom would be quite under on that 43.5. Yeah, that's he'd be under. Randy, what are you thinking for the score?
Yeah, I mean, Denver's defense is stout, so I'm not expecting a lot of fireworks offensively, but I do think we come out and we play an effective offensive football game. Like I said, it'd be nice if we could establish the run a little bit. But I'm going to go with the 24-13 victory. It's not a huge offensive production, but I think it's solid enough to where we score on 4 out of maybe 6 possessions, and we hold Denver's offense to not a lot. So I think they'll get one touchdown maybe early, and then kind of stall out and have to settle for a couple of field goals. But that's I'm a 24-13 range. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's good thoughts. This is definitely it's an interesting one. I don't know. I was a little worried about this game. I'm not gonna lie. Thinking about this game for the past week or so, a little bit worried about how the Chiefs will end up playing. Definitely seems like a case that we all have a lot of high expectations for the Chiefs, and they end up coming out and looking like the same old Chiefs that we're used to. And we're all like, what did they do during the bye week? Did they do anything? I don't know. So definitely, I feel like it's going to be a grind of a game for sure. Just with it being a must win and everything like that, you'd hope that the Chiefs can pull it out. I'm thinking along the lines of like 20-17 Chiefs. I think it'll be a real close one. Might even be decided by a late field goal. Harrison Butker out there to win or something like that. It just feels like it has the makings of a game that the Chiefs aren't fully back to being in the shape where they can just come out and have a really good A to B performance and put up a really impressive numbers and whatnot. I think they're kind of in that working back stage where this will be a little bit of a speed bump for sure, but a welcome challenge that hopefully they can kind of build off of this game and then maybe have a little bit more convincing games as the season goes on. But obviously, like we said, the schedule is really grueling, so you kind of need this as a get right game to just really figure out some things, reestablish what you know offensively, and try to get out of there without embarrassing yourselves too much. But I do think we'll come out with the win, 20-17, and then it's a little bit more optimistic looking for the Chiefs and the long-term ramifications of what this game will do. So should be a good one. Obviously, it's a noon or a 3:25 kickoff
3:25
time. So the afternoon slate you might have it. Should be a good one. Should be good. Hopefully everyone is excited for it. Get out there if you have the potential to attend the game in person. Got to rep Chiefs Kingdom and show up and get that stadium looking red. Obviously, Chiefs Kingdom is one of the best fan bases in the world of traveling and stuff like that. So, division matchup, there's two really high explosive teams coming up that are, a lot of excitement over both teams for both fan bases. I think right now, so it's gonna be a tense one. It's gonna be a very tense atmosphere. We appreciate everyone for rocking with us tonight. Be sure to follow us at Kingdom Says Pod on Facebook, X, and Instagram. Be sure to check us out on YouTube. The Kingdom Says over there. That's where a lot of our that's the best home for content. If you just want a one-stop shop for Kingdom Says content and just Chief content in general, you should definitely check out our YouTube. That's definitely the best way to support us by watching over there, liking, subscribing, all that good stuff. Otherwise, you can always find us on your podcast apps, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get it. We'll be there. And we look forward to recanting with you guys next week on a good Victory Monday and a lot more optimistic look for the rest of the year. So that's it. That's all we've got. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for watching. We will see you guys on the next episode of The Kingdom Says.